Welcome to Value Plays Only, where food chain just turns creatures into mana dorks. Today, we have Cammy playing Sheoldred the Apocalypse. This mono-black control deck looks to punish mid-range value decks while slowly draining the table. It can with Bloodchief Ascension and Mindcrank, or Chain of Smog and Professor Onyx. Her hand contains a Bloodchief Ascension, Deadly Rollick, Feed the Swarm, and 2 Swamps. Her London mulligans are Phyrexian Arena and Saison, Perverter of Truth. John is playing Kalamax, the Stormsire. This value teamer list is looking to land Kalamax early and get it tapped. From there, it generates massive advantage by doubling up on spells on each player's turn, winning with commander damage or Underworld Breach. His hand contains a Thrill of Possibility, Planar Genesis, Veil of Summer, Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, Autowara Soaring City, and Wooded Foothills. Tyler is playing Rograkh, Son of Rograkh, and Silas Wren, Secret Adept. This is the fastest deck in the format. It uses Rograkh to its highest potential, blazing out Grixis flavored wins as early as turn 1 or 2. His hand contains Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, Demonic Tutor, Underworld Breach, Talisman of Dominance, Necrodominance, Wishclaw Talisman, and Polluted Delta. Dan is playing Ob Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. This is a Rakdos Storm deck pretending to be a stacks deck. It's loaded up with 1 damage ping effects to generate massive card advantage through Ob. It can win with Agatha's Soul Cauldron or Dualcaster Mage. His hand contains a Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, Razorkin Needlehead, Imperial Seal, Mox Diamond, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mountain, and Shatterskull Smashing. And with that, let's see some value plays. Cammy starts things off with a Swamp. She plays a Bloodchief Ascension. With the table feeling the preemptive burn, Cammy passes the turn. John plays a Wooded Foothills for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Hedge Maze, triggering to Surveil, leaving it on top. He casts a Mox Diamond, discarding Autowara, Soaring City as it enters. He then casts a Chrome Mox, imprinting Veil of Summer as it enters. John then passes the turn. Tyler plays a Polluted Delta for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. He casts a Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. He then casts his commander, Rograkh, Son of Rograkh. Tyler passes the turn. Dan plays a Mana Confluence, his land for turn. He casts a Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. He then passes the turn. Cammy untaps and draws. She plays a Swamp as land for turn. She casts a Starscape Cleric. This feels a lot like a combo piece, and the table is starting to get worried as Cammy passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Volcanic Island as land for turn. He casts his commander, Kalamax, the Stormsire. It resolves, and John passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays Gemstone Caverns as land for turn. He goes to combat, swinging Ragavan at Dan. Dan takes the damage, and Ragavan triggers to make a treasure and exile Kessig Flame Breather off the top of his library. In his second main phase, he casts Talisman of Indulgence. He then passes the turn. In his end step, Bloodchief triggers to get its first counter. The turn then moves to Dan. Dan untaps and draws. He goes to combat, swinging Ragavan at Tyler. Tyler takes the damage, and Ragavan triggers to make a treasure and exile Talisman of Dominance off the top of Tyler's library. In his second main phase, Dan plays an Ancient Tomb with land for turn. He then casts Imperial Seal, searching up a card to the top of his library and losing 2 life. Dan then casts Tyler's Talisman of Dominance from exile. He then passes the turn. In his end step, Bloodchief triggers to get its second counter. The turn then moves to Cammy. Cammy untaps and draws. She looks at Kalamax with bloodlust in her eyes. She asks John what his plans are. John shows her his whole hand of 2 draw spells and a Force of Will. She decides it's better to keep the Force of Will in play for the Turbo Brothers and decides not to out the Kalamax right now. She goes to combat, swinging Starscape Cleric at Tyler. He takes the damage, and Cammy moves to her end step, triggering Bloodchief Ascension to get its third and most important counter. The table starts to worry about this spiral as the turn moves to John. John untaps and draws. He plays a Flooded Strand as land for turn. He swings Kalamax at Cammy. She takes the damage, and John passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He goes to combat. John begs him to hit Dan to out the card Dan tutored with Imperial Seal. After a lot of debate, Dan convinces him that he doesn't want the pinger that he put on top that's only going to work with Ob Nixilis. Tyler swings Ragavan at Cammy. She takes the damage, and Ragavan triggers to make a treasure and exile Peer into the Abyss off the top of Cammy's library. John whips his Force Wheel at everyone's face and tells them to be cool and don't make me use this. In his second main phase, Tyler casts Wishclaw Talisman. John responds by paying a life and cracking Flooded Strand. Bloodchief triggers to drain him for 2. Starscape triggers to ping everyone for 1. John then fetches up a Tropical Island. Wishclaw then resolves. Tyler moves to pass the turn, and in his end step, John casts Planar Genesis. Kalamax triggers to copy it. He triggers again to get a counter. The copy resolves, and John adds a card to hand. He then resolves the original and adds another card to hand. Bloodchief triggers to drain him for 2. Starscape triggers to ping everyone for 1. The turn then moves to Dan. Dan untaps and draws. He plays Shatterskull, the Hammer Pass, as land for turn, into play untap, paying 3 life. He casts a Cataract Parasite. He then casts his commander, Ob Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. It resolves, and Dan goes to combat. He swings Ragavan at Cammy. She takes the damage, and Ragavan triggers to get a treasure and exile Cabal Coffers off the top of her library. Dan then passes the turn. In his end step, John casts Crop Rotation, sacrificing Tropical Island as an additional cost. Kalamax and Bloodchief trigger. John drains 2, and Cleric triggers to ping everyone for 1. Ob Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Arid Mesa. Kalamax resolves to copy Crop Rotation, and then Kalamax triggers to get a counter. The copy resolves, and John fetches up a Breeding Pool into play untapped, paying 2 life. Crop Rotation then resolves, searching up a Mystic Sanctuary into play untapped. Bloodchief triggers to drain him for 2, and Cleric triggers to ping everyone for 1. Ob Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Bolt Bend off the top of his library. Mystic Sanctuary triggers to put Planar Genesis from John's grave on top of his library. The turn then moves to Cammy. Cammy untaps and draws. Cataract triggers to pick her for 1. Ob Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Vexing Bauble. Cammy casts Feed the Swarm, targeting Ob Nixilis. Dan responds with a Bolt Bend. John begs Dan to out the Blood Chief instead of Kalamax. After a lot of debate, Dan doesn't want to live under the enchantment and changes the target of Feed the Swarm to Blood Chief Ascension. Bolt Bend goes to Grave, and Blood Chief triggers to drain him for 2. Starscape triggers to ping everyone for 1. Ob triggers to get a counter and exile Cabal Ritual. Feed the Swarm then resolves, destroying Blood Chief, and Cammy loses a life. Cammy then passes the turn. In her instep, John casts Faithless Looting, discarding the Force of Will that everyone has been complaining about as an additional cost. Kalamax triggers to copy it, and then triggers again to get a counter. The copy resolves and John draws 2. The original resolves and John draws 2 more. Cataract triggers 4 times to bring John for 4. Ob gets 4 more counters and exiles 4 more cards. Still in the end step, Dan casts Pyroblast, targeting Kalamax. John is gobsmacked that Dan is blown into bits after he discarded the Force everyone was worried about. Kalamax is destroyed, and the turn finally moves to John. John untaps and recasts his commander, Kalamax, the Stormsire. He passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. Cataract triggers. Ob Nixilis triggers to get a counter. He goes to combat and swings Ragavan at John. John takes the damage and Ragavan triggers, making a treasure and exiling Dig Through Time. Tyler activates Wishclaw Talisman, searching up a card and giving it to Cammy. Tyler casts Underworld Breach. The table now remember what deck Tyler is on and realize they're in trouble. It resolves and Tyler casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He then casts Brain Freeze, with every copy targeting himself. John steps in here and says if Dan takes no game actions on his turn, John will deal with this. Dan agrees to take no game actions except for attacking Tyler, and John responds with a Mind Break Trap. It resolves and Brain Freeze is exiled. Tyler then cracks Lion's Eye Diamond for 3 black, discarding his hand. He escapes Necrodominance from his grave, exiling all but Lion's Eye Diamond. Tyler goes to his end step, playing to his outs. Necrodominance triggers, and Tyler pays 26 life to draw 26 cards. 26 Cataract Parasite triggers go on the stack. Tyler responds to all of them by casting Born Upon a Wind. It resolves and Tyler draws. Another Cataract trigger goes on the stack, and Tyler responds with a Mox Diamond, discarding Flooded Strand. He taps it for black, casting Rain of Filth. He sacrifices all of his lands, adding 3 black. He exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand to cast Beseech the Mirror, bargaining it by sacrificing Talisman of Indulgence. He holds priority and casts Flare of Duplication, sacrificing Ragavan as an additional cost. The first Beseech resolves, and he finds Demonic Consultation, casting it for free, naming Forest, exiling his entire library. The second Beseech then finds Thassa's Oracle, casting it for free. It enters and triggers, and with that, Tyler wins the game. Today, we have a 2-for-1 deal. In this game, John is playing Narset, Enlightened Exile. This is a graveyard turbo deck built to take advantage of doubling up on powerful spells before closing the game with Underworld Breach. His hand contains a Rhystic Study, an offer you can't refuse, Chrome Mox, Simian Spirit Guide, Ancient Tomb, Spectator Seating, and Training Center. Tyler's playing Marneus Calgar. This Esper value pile is chock-a-block full of token generators that Marneus turns into card advantage. It can win with Thassa's Oracle or Hullbreaker Horde loops. His hand contains a Mystic Remora, Snapcaster Mage, Mirror Maid, Soul Ring, Ranger Captain of Eos, Mana Confluence, and Hallowed Fountain. Dan is playing Atraxa, Grand Unifier. This is a big mana food chain deck. It looks to ramp out its commander for massive value, winning with Thassa's Oracle or commander damage. His hand contains Noble Hierarch, Utopia Sprawl, Lotus Petal, Drana and Limbala, Flooded Strand, and Misty Rainforest. His London Mulligan is a Tainted Pact. Cammy is again playing Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Her hand contains Douthie Voidwalker, Grim Tutor, Damnation, Boggart Trawler, and 3 Swamps. And with that, let's see some value plays. John starts things off with an Ancient Tomb as land for turn. He casts a Chrome Mox. It resolves and he imprints an offer you can't refuse. John taps out for a turn 1 Rhystic Study. The table is blown back on their seats as John passes the turn. Tyler plays a Verdant Catacombs for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up an Underground Sea. He casts a Mystic Remora. Rhystic triggers and John draws. Tyler passes the turn. Dan plays a Misty Rainforest for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Tropical Island. He casts a Noble Hierarch. Rhystic triggers and John draws. Dan passes the turn. Cammy untaps and draws. She plays a Swamp and passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Spectator Seating his land for turn. He exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand for a red mana and casts his commander, Narset, Enlightened Exile. In an amazing position, yet again, John passes the turn. Tyler untaps and in his upkeep he pays to keep his Remora. He plays a Hallowed Fountain his land for turn. Into play untap, paying 2 life. Tyler casts a Soul Ring. Rhystic triggers and John draws. Tyler then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays an Underground Sea his land for turn. He casts Utopia Sprawl, targeting his Tropical Island. Rhystic and Mystic trigger. Tyler draws and Dan pays for John's Rhystic. He casts Lotus Petal, Rhystic and Mystic trigger. Tyler draws and Dan pays for Rhystic again. Dan then passes the turn. Cammy untaps and draws. She plays a Swamp as land for turn. She casts a Douthie Voidwalker. John is blown away that his whole deck has been countered by a single card as Rhystic triggers and he draws. Douthie resolves and Cammy passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He starts scheming about how he can out the Douthie. He plays Training Center as land for turn and casts a Gamble, Prowess and Remora trigger. Tyler draws and Narset gets +1/+1. The table knows this will find an out to the Douthie, and Tyler steps in here with a mental misstep, paying 2 life to counter the gamble, and both go to the Douthie zone. John then casts a Mirror Maid, Prowess and Reward trigger. Tyler draws, and Narset gets +1/+1. With no answers, Mirror Maid enters as a copy of Rhystic Study. In the best position Narset could be in, John goes to combat, swinging Narset at Tyler. He takes the damage, and John passes the turn. Tyler untaps, and in his upkeep, he lets his Remore die. He casts an Enlightened Tutor, 2 Rhystic trigger, and John draws 2. It resolves, and Tyler searches up a Smothering Tithe to the top of his library. He draws a card and goes to his main phase, where he plays a Mana Confluence, his land for turn. He casts the best card in Marneus, Smothering Tithe. 2 Rhystic trigger, and John draws 2. Tithe then resolves. Happy with his setup, for the first time this game, Tyler passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. Tithe triggers to make a treasure. Dan plays a Flooded Strand, his land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a scrub land. Dan casts Dark Ritual, 2 Rhystic trigger. Dan pays for 1 and John draws 1. Tithe triggers to make a treasure. Dan casts his commander, Atraxa, Grand Unifier. 2 Rhystic trigger and John draws 2. Tithe triggers to make 2 treasures. Atraxa enters and triggers. Dan looks at the top 10 and adds Opposition Agent, Mana Confluence, Teferi Time Raveler, Mnemonic Betrayal, Smothering Tithe, Mindbreak Trap, and Grim Tutor to hand. With a very successful turn of his own, Dan passes the turn, discarding the hand size. Cammy untaps and draws. Tithe triggers to make a treasure. She plays a Swamp as land for turn. Cammy taps out to cast a Grim Tutor, 2 Rhystic trigger, and John draws 2. Tithe triggers twice to make treasures. John responds with a Lightning Bolt, targeting Douthie. The table now band together to keep John penned in, and Tyler casts Force of Will for 5 mana. 2 Rhystic trigger, and John draws 2. Tithe triggers twice to make treasures. Force counters Bolt, and both go to the Douthie zone. Grim Tutor then resolves, and Cammy searches up a card. She then passes the turn. John untaps, and in his upkeep, he casts Mystical Tutor. Prowess triggers to get +1/+1. It resolves, and John goes searching for a card to out Douthie Voidwalker. He puts a Swords to Plowshares on top of his library. John draws for turn, and Tithe triggers to make a treasure. He plays a Plateau as land for turn. John casts Swords to Plowshares, targeting Douthie Voidwalker. Prowess triggers to get +1/+1. Priority passes around, and Cammy chooses to sacrifice Douthie to its ability, choosing Force of Will to be playable this turn. John then casts Birgi, God of Storytelling. The decision on what to stop is agonizing right now. Cammy opts to not let him get any more mana and casts Force of Will for free. Rhystic triggers twice, and John draws 2. Tithe triggers twice to make 2 treasures. Birgi is then countered. John casts Rite of Flame. Prowess triggers to get +1/+1. John adds 2 red mana. John casts Mox Diamond. Prowess triggers again to get +1/+1. It resolves, and John discards Sacred Foundries and enters. John now casts Final Fortune. Prowess triggers to get +1/+1. Tyler taps out all of his treasures to overload Cyclonic Rift. This is not a great spot for John. 2 Rhystic trigger, and John draws 2. Tithe triggers twice to make 2 treasures. John responds with a Flusterstorm, with all copies targeting Cyclonic Rift. Dan steps in with a Mindbreak Trap, targeting only the Flusterstorms. The table are pretty sure that if Cyclonic Rift resolves, then John will likely just die in his extra turn. 2 Rhystic trigger, and John draws 2. Tithe triggers twice to make 2 treasures. Mindbreak Trap then exiles all the Flusterstorms. Cyclonic Rift then bounces John's whole board. Final Fortune then resolves. John then continues with his main phase with a Mox Diamond, discarding Arid Mesa as it enters. He casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Mystic Remora as it enters. John taps out to cast Brain Freeze with Storm count 12. John mills 39 cards. Luckily, he manages to hit Savine's Reclamation, Underworld Breach, and Lion's Eye Diamond. John then passes to his Final Fortune turn, discarding the hand size. John takes his final turn. He plays a Tundra as land for turn. He casts Voice of Victory. Tyler is blown away at how great this card is at answering his hand. Sadly for the table, Voice of Victory resolves. John flashes back Savine's Reclamation, targeting Underworld Breach. It resolves and copies, targeting Lion's Eye Diamond. John presents a loop of casting Lion's Eye Diamond and Brain Freeze, milling out all players' libraries. John casts Angel's Grace from his graveyard, so that he can't lose the game this turn. John casts Wheel of Fortune. All players try to draw from an empty library and lose the game. Thanks to Angel's Grace, John wins the game. So, what do we learn today? If 1 Rhystic is good, 2 Rhystics is going to be great. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Subscribe if you feel like it. Until next time, keep making value plays. That's all I have, is a Force of Will and 2 spells that draw. Okay. I'm just worried about not having it. We're in the middle of her turn.
I pass. I pass.
By the way, I pass.
I pass on life. Oh, hey, Cammy. Let's see what you got.
Here.
Whoa.
Whoa, my God.
Did I get there?
Everybody shut the fuck up. Everybody shut the fuck up.
Cammy, I might be able to pull it.
Or I can just...
Be careful talking to Dan, because Dan's like pretty ahead.
My plan is to try to use this to wipe Ob. I'll say that.
Okay, I was going to offer you, if you want to get rid of this
I
and
can't
not
get,
Ob.
Dan, if I could get rid of that, I'd be fucking doing it.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't love taking all this damage.
I have some. If you kill Kalamax, I will support you because now John's gonna stop my shit.
If you shoot Ob, I'll start beating his ass with Kalamax. I'll commander damage him out of the game.
I think Bobby is the more direct threat to my game.
Oh, you think the flying trampler who doesn't have
Did
the
you
counters
draw
every
a
turn?
card at the start of your turn, by the way?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
should have
did.
taken one. Triggers again, he gets another card.
That sealed the deal.
That sealed the deal.
I'll feed the swarm targeting Bobby.
He
Sacrifices
has
anymore.
brain freeze. He can kill you the second you do something if Watch a Cocoa concoction is there.
So wait, you're saying Watsukoko should be there or should
No! As long as that's there, Tyler will put a gun to your temple.
I got a loaded fucking gun.
Yeah.
Bro. Only have a lot of
How are
spells
you
and
threatening
cast.
me if that's what's stopping you from winning, though? I don't understand.
Huh? No, I just take someone out of the game, and I think that's
Yeah, he
awesome.
can make you mill 100 and you'll die.
That's ridiculous.
Only if you're gonna target Dan.
What the hell? Why are you targeting me then? I'm not targeting fucking
I'm not
Kalamax.
targeting you.
Only if we get rid of
The
Dan.
man with the gun is on there. I'm saying I'm not gonna cast more spells if you're gonna blast me with them because that would be stupid. It's up to you. I
I'm
would
not
cast
going to
no
put more spells
or I
on
can
there.
put a spell on
I
this
could
now.
put it, hey, you know what? I could put a spell on there. I don't want you to target me. How does that sound?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this gun I'm so scared of, by the way?
Do you want me to cast a spell or not?
Okay.
If you want the storm count up, I don't want to be blasted. That's all.
Oh, I get it. It's freaking brain freeze.
Yeah, we've said it. Damn.
I asked. I forgot.
I said
okay?
100 times. He's got a brain freeze. It's at your temple.
No, you said gun.
Alright.
Have you
Somehow
drawn
John
any
got through
stuff
all
or
that
what?
interaction, still has his force.
I'm gonna pitch
hate
force him.
that. Okay.
Alright, everyone shut the fuck up.
Okay.
Uh,
I don't have any mana.
Dan, if you take no actions on your turn, I will stop this.
Alright,
Good?
that's fair.
Mind break trap.
Dude, how do you always have the perfect fucking out, my guy? It never goes to fucking great. It's so crazy.
Yeah, you exile your library.
Yep.
And then you're a cool guy.
Dude. I feel like
I think
this.
he got to. Yeah.
I'm gonna do mind break, all the flusters.
Not the Psychic.
No.
Not the Final Fortune.
No.
Cool.
Oh, you're gonna let him
Well,
try
what
to
do you
take
think?
it?
What do you think?
That's risky as hell.
I feel like he loses the game, which is kind of funny, but
I think you let him have it, dude. I think you let him have it. Let him have it. That's
you know what?
hilarious.
Have your final fortune.
Let's just see.
Alright,
what
so
happens.
Final Fortune and Psych Rift are unbothered. I'll mill 39. Breach is in the grave. LED, Savines. Letting the Final Fortune resolve was
Yeah.
risky.
It was a bold move.